Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Brahmanandam Param Sukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasya Lakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Tirgunaratam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Adorations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, in Sthiti Prakaraṇa, sections 4 onwards. Profound insight is being given into the illusory nature of the world. That's not a new news. And it doesn't require much discussion, and it is a profound fact shining before the eyes of everyone. And yet, it's very difficult for the mind to accept. In the Mahabharata, Yudhishthira was put to a trial by his divine father Yama, who asked Yudhishthira, what's the most surprising thing in this world? And Yudhishthira said that every day people see the death of others. And they see also everything perishes. And yet, that focus doesn't go towards one's own body, one's own personality. And that's the most surprising thing. That let's break the sacrifice, the surprise. Go into the deeper meaning, how to let the mind understand it, grasp it. First point, to understand of the full extent of mind's operation. It is the mind that dies. Death has no reality. It's mind that brings that news. Because anything that you grasp is an act of mind. Even if you say, this is not mind, this is completely physical. But who is telling the mind? It is the mind that is born. It is the mind that enters into bondage by sustaining the erroneous concept of the world as real. And likewise, it is the mind that attains liberation by melting the mist of the world process, by the shining rays of intuitional vision. It is in the mind that intuitive vision arises. So when the mind allows that vision to arise, then the state of bondage comes to termination. The whole process of bondage and release is played out by your mind. Not a very big, seems very difficult to understand. But in this modern world of very advanced technology. Think of the capacity of your iPad. All that is good and bad comes into your iPad. Which you can just keep it in such a little, put it even in your pocket. In the same way, all that is high and low, sublime and stupid, all come into the iPad of your mind. But the mind itself expresses through your nervous system. So the mind, mental energy and nervous system, that becomes your iPad. But to be free of this iPad, that requires profound insight. That's the whole purpose of scriptural teachings. And the practice of integral yoga is needed. Just as fragrance abides in and emanates from flowers, in the same way, the world abides in and arises out of the mind. Just as oil is hidden in sesame seeds, old-time illustration is always sesame seeds. It's called til, and oil is called tail. Qualities of an object, hidden in an object, and effects in the cause. See, just like oil is hidden in the seeds, the qualities of an object are hidden in the object. This world is hidden in the mind. Just as the rays abide in the sun, heat in fire, coolness in ice. Try to find where the coolness is by looking at the ice. Say, how nice. But you can't separate coolness from the ice. Vacuity in space and motion in the wind. So too the world cannot be separated from the mind. Mind indeed is this world. Can stay in the world, but if your mind has gone wild, if the mind has become extremely dull, I'm just giving illustration. It's not a question of if. There are countless people possessing abnormal state of mind to such an extent that mind is there, but nothing normal can be experienced by. Even if the world were to physically be destroyed, whenever you hear the statement, this world should be pushed away, you have to negate it. Now, if a person's mind is extremely dull with, there was the idea, what should we get? What type of a weapon that can destroy the whole world and leave myself alone? But that is not. No. If you are thinking of literally destroying the world in order to be free of the world, that you are moving in a wrong direction. The more you destroy it, the more you are being involved in the world. The more you try to negate it with your muscles and with your ego, the world asserts itself. You are rather finding up the world. The world goes on blowing, becoming bigger like a balloon. However, not until the reality of the world is negated through the mind does the mind withdraw its projections. And yet, that's your goal. Until the world is negated by your mind, and thereby mind itself ceases to be. Until you reach that state, you have not become liberated, you have not realized immortality. To illustrate this point, a very complicated story is being presented to you. And it's a story of Shukracharya, who becomes the guru of demons. That doesn't mean that he's playing a lesser role. If in a hospital someone is specialized in dealing with disease-bearing germs, allergical germs, and so forth, he's not looked down upon. Rather, he's more important at times than those who are dealing with positive bacteria, etc. In other words, in divine plan, there are two gurus. I'm talking in an allegorical way. One is Guru of gods, Brihaspati, who puts godly qualities in you in order. Another one is Shukracharya, who puts your negative qualities, channelize them when they begin to mix up with the positive and create a muddy situation, takes them out, not to keeps them intact. So therefore, divine process cuts them down as demoniac in you becomes channelized and begin to emerge in a special way that can be negated. So that's something giving you the role of Shukracharya. But right now I will enter into this story and enjoy it. Long, long ago, sage Vrigu lived with his son Shukracharya. When Shukracharya was still a boy, he used to roam through the beautiful valley of the Mandarachala mountains, enjoying the beautiful flowers, the sparkling streams, all the wondrous aspects of nature. The story is, I'm simplifying, that sage Bhrigu and his son Shukracharya, they loved each other very profoundly, always lived together. But there were times when Bhrigu would enter into deep samadhi, and samadhi would continue sometimes, not ordinary terms, sometimes years and years. During that time, Shukracharya would allow himself to be entertained by his own practice and by the nature around him. As time passed, Shukracharya became a young man. He had practiced meditation and austerity, but he had not yet freed his mind of subtle attachments. His state was like that of a pendulum, swinging between the world of desires and the spiritual goal of desirelessness. Once, while his father was absorbed in profound samadhi, that lasted for a long time. Shukracharya was occupying himself by watching the beautiful sights of nature. When he witnessed an apsara flying through the sky, she was decked with a garland of mandara flowers, and her garments were swaying in the gentle breeze. To the young mind of Shukracharya, she seemed like the very embodiment of beauty. And in turn, the apsara too, seeing the youthful face of Shukracharya, immediately fell in love with him. Now, in the storyline, Shukracharya sees the divine apsara and also believes that apsara also saw him. But now what happens is all happening is in his own mind. Afflicted with desire, as though wounded by the arrows of Cupid God, Shukracharya lost all awareness of his body and mentally became one with the apsara. For majority of people, when you get fascinated by something, you get it in your dream. For yogis, they get it in their samadhi. So that's what happens. Shukracharya goes into meditation. When meditation opens a window to profound imagination. And he's lost in it. With his eyes closed, he mentally began to travel along with the apsara to Indraloka, where he saw the gods of the heaven decked with celestial ornaments. He heard celestial music, watched the celestial stream Mandakini, met the great gods Yama, Chandra, Indra, Surya, Agni, and others. Seems like a big thing. But these days, with one finger, Google can bring you all that. In other words, mind has million times greater power than your iPads. So nothing, physically, literally, in reality, he is not going anywhere. But all this is happening in his own mind. He saw all those gods. He admired the Airavata elephant, the vehicle of Indra, and further diverted himself by watching the various scenes and sights of the heavenly world. Following this experience, which occurred through his mind alone, nothing practical, realistic, just in the mind, Shukracharya then perceived himself to go to the royal court of Indra. After saluting Indra, Indra got up from his throne, welcomed the son of sage Vrigu. Upon Indra's request, Shukracharya stayed in the company of Indra for a short time and then went to see the groups of apsaras. That's what he had gone there to find, that apsara that was soaring. To find the apsara who had enchanted his mind. And he finds her there. And more surprising, she is also enchanted by him. She too was delighted to see him in the heavenly world. The sentiments of love swept over their bodily frames. That again is allegorical. The body is not there. This is in his mental body. And they became deeply infatuated by each other. Shukracharya then led the apsara to a heavenly mansion. He found a hotel room. the heavenly mansion. And with a mutual exchange of loving words, embraced each other. From that time on, both revelled in the pleasures of heaven, wandered by the banks of Mandakini, sported in the midst of celestial groves, and passed their time in a state of intoxication. It's a special type of honeymoon. After long periods of time, Shukracharya and the Apsara exhausted their meritorious karmas. Everything here is based on karmas. So both of them exhausted their karmas. Divested of their heavenly garments and ornaments, deserted by the gods, deprived of their celestial chariot and other possessions, they fell earthwards, even like wounded warriors. The scriptures give that in a very allegorical way. Souls enjoying heavenly world, but when their karmas are over, then suddenly the garland in their neck withers away. And everything else is taken away. And abruptly they simply fall. In other words, when changes come in your life led by karma, they don't follow any rationality. They're not a way to convince you or persuade you or tell you beforehand what's happening. They continue to wander with their subtle bodies until in the course of time, Shukracharya was born as the son of a Brahmana couple. Then, led by the impressions of his past spiritual disciplines, he practiced intense austerity for a long time in a dense forest. Each time that word austerity, it simply means pursuing their own concept. It doesn't mean the highest austerity. Otherwise, all this story will not go on and on. If austerity is direct and perfect type, one attains liberation. But Shukracharya was not practicing that type of austerity. And in this stage, he was deprived of real intuitional wisdom. Backed up by his past karmic involvement, he again met the Apsara, who was also in her next embodiment. Souls go on meeting, led by karmas, from embodiment to embodiment. And they begot a male child. Shukracharya became so attached to his son that he soon forgot all about the practice of meditation and other spiritual disciplines. As time passed, his mind became increasingly involved in his son, while his body aged. Eventually, death devoured his body, even as a snake devours empty air. Since his last thoughts were directed towards worldly objects, he was born as the son of a king in the country of Madra. He ascended the throne, and after ruling the kingdom for a long time, he died and was reborn as the son of an ascetic. Showing stage, death after death, entering into embodiment after embodiment. When this is all told at once, it seems confusing, but that's the reality. No one has come just for the first time. As long as you can remember about the world or imagine the past, there was not a single period of the past when you were not there, but not with this body. But you were not non-existent. So therefore can figure out countless embodiments. After practicing intense austerity by the banks of the Samanga river, he overcame his impressions of raga, attachment, and other mental afflictions, and mentally became as stable as a tree unshaken by the winds. Sri Vasistha continued, O Rama, while the mind of Shukracharya continued to experience the celestial pleasures, followed by the numerous embodiments, his physical body in Mandarachala mountain must realize he is. His father is in deep samadhi, he is close by his father, seated in stone-like meditation, and he has gone through all this. Hundreds and hundreds of years have passed, because years are not realities. In your dream, many years pass. And that all takes place within your short duration of sleep. And what we consider realistic, real time, that real again relates to your nervous system. How you interpret reality of time. The same is not interpreted by birds, animals, etc. Now, coming to the storyline, soon the body was reduced to a skeleton. The wind blowing through the holes of the skull created a strange sound. Scriptures were not so careful. That was their basic purpose, to enable you to understand the body is not you. Your mind should not be. And people are also not just bodies. So, again and again, the body and how it decays comes into the scriptures. And how does it look when the body begins to decay? You can say at least the bones are there. And no, the bones get holes. And some little creatures go into it. And they start croaking. The grinning teeth seem to ridicule the vanity of the worldly pleasures. Scorched by the raging sun, tossed by the fierce winds, drenched in torrential rains, the poor body of Shukracharya became the very embodiment of ugliness and inauspiciousness. Let me strengthen myself. After a long state of samadhi, Sri Bhrigu came back to normal consciousness. He looked for his dear son Shukracharya, and finding him absent, wandered through the ashram forests, until he found the dead body. It was dried up like a stick, and little birds had nestled in the crevices of the skeleton. You know those little birds that are only thumb size. While frogs rested under the body, spiders wove cobwebs around it. Overcome by sorrow at the untimely death of his son, must realize this is a story being told. Bhrigu, after thousands of years of body should know that life is perishable and the soul is not body. But this is being told for the world, not for sages. Sage Vriku, overcome by sorrow, prepared to curse the spirit of time by the force of his anger. Seeing this, Kala, the spirit, time spirit, appeared before him in person. The spirit of time was endowed with a strange mystic beauty. He had 6 arms, and on each side, corresponding to 12 months, and 6 faces corresponding to 6 seasons, according to the Indian weather. And he was decked with ornaments and armor, and held celestial weapons. Fires emanated from his trident that he held, and all directions were illumined by his presence. See, there were no TV in those days. But the description is part of all the imagination. Having approached sage Bhrigu, the time spirit said in a voice as deep as the sea, O sage, great men are not overcome by delusion. Even when others have committed a wrong towards them, they do not become angry. You are giving vent to your anger without investigating into the truth of the matter. The time spirit goes on telling him, O sage, I follow the laws of the universe. I'm not afraid of your curse. By pronouncing your curse on me, you will be destroying the merit that you have earned through your austerities. O sage, you cannot affect me. I, who have swallowed endless series of creations, have been devoured, have even devoured many Brahmas, Shivas and Vishnus. Don't get upset. They're referring to Sagun Sakar. Sagun Sakar role is in relation to the world. When the world system moves away, you don't need Brahma, you don't need Vishnu, you don't need Shiva. But which projection after Mahapralaya, the world starts to operate. Then Brahma begins to play his role, Vishnu begins to play his role, Shiva begins to play. These manifestations have come and gone millions of times. But when you make any one of them as your Ishta Devata, you are not holding your meditation on that particular role he plays, but Brahman, the God, the Absolute, one without a second. So every Ishta Devata becomes greater than all gods. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and all gods put together. Ishta Devata is Brahman. And Brahman is greater than all Sagun Sakars. That has to be understood, otherwise people stay in big confusion. Every living being has 2 types of bodies, physical and the mental. Physical body is subject to death and destruction, but the mental body continues to exist until the attainment of liberation. O sage, why do you afflict your mental body? While you were absorbed in samadhi, your son left behind his physical body in order to follow the course of his mind. Just as a bird leaves behind its nest and flies into the sky, in the same way your son followed an apsara with his mental body, and having enjoyed celestial pleasures, continued to wander through many embodiments. Led by his own subtle desires, and having passed through numerous experiences of pleasure and pain, he has now incarnated as Vasudeva, the son of an ascetic. This Vasudeva is not Krishna's father from storyline. It's another person. And is now practicing austerity on the banks of Samanga river. Time Spirit continued, O sage, by the banks of the Samanga river, where the murmuring sound of the waves continue to resound in the forest, your son is practicing austerity. He has developed matted locks and has Rudrakshmalas. And he has Rudrakshmalas for bracelets on his wrists. Do exercise your own spiritual vision to see how mental illusions of your son have led him to his present situation. Sage Bhrigu said, O divine being, you are the knower of the past, present, and future. You know the illusory powers of the mind. It was my conviction that my son was not going to die for one Mahakalpa, for one day of Brahma. But seeing him dead at an early age, I was overcome by anger. Indeed, it was a great error on my part. Through my yogic vision, I have witnessed the bodies of my son, adopted by the force of his mental desires. I have also discovered my son by the banks of the Samanga river. It is now clear that the mind in every individual is his greater reality. It is the mind that conceives of and projects the physical body. The world process is experienced only as reflections in the mind. The chitta-vrittis. To human experience, things are described solid realities. You can grab them, you can catch them, you can hold them. You can study them through time, how long this ornament has existed. But you can do the same thing while you are dreaming. While your whole dream world is illusion, to you there will not be any illusion. You will be completely as if things are real. And same applies in the waking state. That profound way of looking at it, it escapes one's human mind. Time Spirit said, O sage, your statement that the mind itself manifests as the body is indeed true. For just as a potter molds a pot, the mind molds the physical body. Yet although the physical body has no reality in itself, when the mind is dominated by gross vision, it believes the body to be real. Yogis see this world as a mental projection. All objects of the world are as real as the thoughts of the mind. The vasanas or subtle desires of the mind that arise from ignorance sustain the vision of difference, implying multiplicity and duality. The world process is nothing but an extension of these mental subtle desires. जाकी रही भावना जैसी प्रभु मूर्ति देखी तिन तैसी. You are looking at Prabhu Murti, this is all God. But you are looking at that Prabhu Murti according to your bhavana. You are lying in the Rama's support, Aram. But while you are lying, you are caught in your dream. And if there are 10 people in the room, each one is caught in their own dream. The room is just the same. Beds are just the same. Prabhu Murti is just the same. But jati rahi bhavana jaisi. As is your mind, accordingly your experience. And your experience is not simple experience, it's a whole Google. Past, present, future. To have a Godward movement until your intellect becomes intuitional, how to allow that to happen. That should be your highlight, not how you can become secure just in your business, just in your external relations or external illusions. Yogis see the world as a mental projection. All objects of the world as real as the thoughts of the mind. The subtle desires of the mind that arise from ignorance sustain the vision of difference and duality. Just as every wave in the ocean is nothing but the ocean, in the same way, every individual is essentially Brahman or the Absolute. Suppose a wave were to develop its own identity, separate from the ocean, and see itself rising to a state of prosperity in one moment and falling to a state of humiliation and destruction in the next. Suppose it were to be jealous of others' waves that seem to flourish and succeed. In the same way, though every individual is essentially the ocean of perfect unity, yet it has developed the illusory notion of its separated existence and consequently its relationships and attitudes towards other similar waves or individual personalities. So wave goodbye. Like a spider that weaves a cobweb and becomes entangled in it. So every individual is intrinsically the weaver of the cobweb of illusions. Everyone has a website. The form of repeated experiences of birth and death. Just as a silkworm creates a cocoon and encloses itself in it, in the same way, every individual creates his own bondage. Your cocoon is 5 sheaths. But then, just as an elephant is able to break its fetters by the sheer force of its strength, so too the soul, by the force of wisdom, is able to break the fetters created by the mind and thereby frees itself from the world process. The self is infinitely free and led by the mind, whatever it imagines, that it becomes. Even the fact that mind can give all this, where does that power comes from this self? All the cinema show you see, staggering display of so many things. But all the power that the cinema show gets from where? The screen. All the projections of the mind, they get power from pure consciousness. All the illuminations on this earth, they get their power from the sun. Just as in the rainy season, the expansive sky becomes covered with dense clouds within a short time. In the same way, the self is able to project a world process within the twinkling of an eye. And we will continue. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Hari Om.